Larry Ogunjobi re-signs 3-year contract, more than $28 million. And Damontae Kazee, they'll pair him with Minkah Fitzpatrick on the back end at the safety position. And my overall thought with this, what the Steelers are doing is they've positioned themselves when they draft at 17, at 32, and 49. And they're going to do this regardless, but they can now draft the best player available in each of those slots. And they draft that way regardless of the year. But like going into this offseason, it was like, well, they've got some holes they need to address. Let's see how they approach free agency. Then that'll signal what Pittsburgh ends up doing in the draft. You've at least filled some of the holes that you need. And now whenever they pick, it's not, well, we have to draft this position because it's a position of need. It's who's the best available guy. We'll add him. We'll plug and play to what we've already got. That to me is what all of this signals from a big picture standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, the signing of Larry, his second year. So we saw what he was doing towards the end of the year when he was healthy. When you get Cam and Larry together, TJ, it's going to be real scary, you know? So what I did like about Larry, he's another defensive lineman who lived in the backfield. You know, so Larry, when he was healthy, he lived in the backfield. This is going on his second year, so he'll be way more comfortable with Coach T and the system they're running. Damontae Kazee, I've always been a fan. Always been a fan of Damontae Kazee. Short in stature, but plays big. And when he came back off of injury, Minkah felt a little bit, in my mind, Minkah felt a little bit more comfortable back there in that secondary. And them boys made plays back there together, especially during the crunch time when Coach T was trying to solidify his 9 losing seasons. That's exactly what he did. So, man, another two free agency signings that the Pittsburgh Steelers needed to do, and they wind up getting the job done.
Ogunjobi had to happen, Ike, because Cam Heyward's going to be 34. Tyson Alualu is even older. And that's one thing where it's just like, what are you going to do to ensure your depth, to ensure that up front we don't see what happened in 2021 when you're dead last in the league in rushing. So the Ogunjobi signing, I liked it when, look, he failed a physical, didn't go to the Bears, and it was to the Pittsburgh Steelers' benefit a season ago. And it's a guy who's accustomed to playing in the division because he started his career with the Browns, then he went to the Bengals, now he's in Pittsburgh. So I'd say he's pretty accustomed to playing in the AFC North, Ike.
Yeah, you know, he just live in the North and just put the AFC in front of him. That's all it is. He liked the cold weather, obviously, because he was at Chicago, failed the physical at Chicago. That's another cold city. So everywhere he been, it's just been cold. So I'm just going to start calling him the Alaskan man because he don't mind the cold weather at all.
I know you're a little bit limited in what you could say in terms of draft strategy, but here's how this reads to me is, again, you can draft best available. Would like to see a defensive lineman. Still would love to see young stud offensive tackle to help fortify the offensive line. Getting a young corner, I think, would be wise too, because a young corner would be able to learn from the expertise of Patrick Peterson, who's played at the highest level that you can at the position. You're talking about a future Hall of Fame player, in my opinion. So those would be 3 areas of need, but it's not dire as it was at the start of free agency. So it's who's available when you're picking in those positions. Depending on how each of the players grade, you can then go from there. But those are 3 position groups that I see. But again, it's, you know, we still have a lot to figure out between now and April 27th, Ike, too. And, you know, again, I mentioned possibly restructuring Mitch Trubisky's contract because you like him in the locker room and the development with Kenny Pickett. Do you want to pay a backup that much money? At the same time, Kenny Pickett had his concussion issues. He had 2 last season, to where you might need a backup to come in for a game or 2 and to make sure that there's not a drop off at the quarterback position. But Ike, I'm a lot more optimistic than I was compared to the start of free agency because this roster's got a lot of holes. But then again, I go back to this. You can approach the draft to where whichever guy you want to pick, you're in a position to where it makes sense now because you don't have those glaring needs compared to when you did a week ago at the start of free agency.
if anybody know anything about Cash Money Records from New Orleans, and Birdman always rubbing his hands because he's pondering his next plan, this is exactly what Coach T and Omar Khan is doing. Now they just solidified what they needed to do in the free agency. They just looking at a draft board like, who do we want? You know, so they're in a very good position right now. Mark, and they put themselves in this position. So we shall see what happens in the draft. I will be in the war room. I am very excited, but I can't say too much. But we will get what we need in the draft. Now that they as in us, we don't have to go and reach because we did everything we needed to do so far in this free agency for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We're going to have to talk about these war room stories. I understand some things need to stay behind closed doors, but get your boy inside. I'll be a fly on the wall. No problem, Mike.
I got you, Mark.
It'll be like you see in Ocean's 11 where the guy sneaks into the vault and it's just like, you won't even know that I'm there. I won't say a peep, Mike.
I got you. I'm going to talk to him.